Welcome to the Champion Within podcast, your go-to spot for unlocking a winning mindset. Whether you're an athlete chasing greatness, a parent cheering from the sidelines, a coach leading the charge, or an educator shaping young minds, this pod party is for you. Hey, if we haven't met before, I'm Kate McCauley, your pod party host, former educator turned mindset mentor. I get to meet people where they are and get them to where they want to go. Expect awesome guest conversations with athletes, some solo chats to level up, and always leave this pod party with quick, powerful strategies to help you and your crew push past limits, embrace challenges, and crush goals both on and off the field. Let's tap into the champion within, because greatness is just a mindset away. Hey champions, today I chat with James Grugan, founder of 5 Star Hiring, the nation's premier staffing agency. He primarily focuses on mentoring and placing former student athletes in jobs. We keep it real in this conversation about how student athletes learn things like juggling their crazy schedule, working with a team, and how these skills set them up for success in the real world. James breaks down why it's key to start thinking about life after sports early and how you can nail the job interview and the mindset shifts that you really need to make this happen. We also talk about celebrating small wins and getting comfortable with discomfort, using affirmations, and of course, some tips to help you crush those goals. So let's get this pod party started. You're going to want to steal some of these tips. Thanks for joining us on The Champion Within today. I am really excited to have this guest with me today. You know, I stalk people who I want to be on my show, and I've been stalking. We call him a lot of different names, Grugan, Jimmy Grugan. You might know him by James. We may refer to each other as some different names because we are local to each other, but I have been stalking what he's doing on Instagram. When I say stalking, sometimes people get afraid of that if they don't know me, but really it means I'm watching what he's doing and I am inspired. I know that the parents, the student athletes, the coaches, not only will you send me messages, but you'll be taking notes. Strong chance you will invite him in to work with your team or you as an individual. Jim, I'm so glad that you're here today. I want you to tell us a little bit about what your company does, and then we're going to dive into some of this mindset stuff and how you connect with all the people that you get to work with.
Yeah, well,
how are you?
I'm as excited as you are to have me. I'm equally as excited to be here. Very flattering introduction. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to it.
Tell me, what is it that you do? If I was coming to your website or your Instagram and I didn't do that stalking yet, what do you do for people?
So I kind of have 2 things that I do. First and foremost, I am a staffing agency. It's a placement service. You know, a company's hiring, they're looking for really at any profession, salespeople, you know, those type of jobs. I put those companies to place and find new employees. Where my niche is working primarily with placing student athletes. Very valuable set of candidates for companies, and through my network, I'm often, I'm able to provide those companies with that desired candidate pool. So I primarily place student athletes. The other side of what I do, which probably may be the best for your listening audience, I think, is working with individual teams or entire athletic departments, and going in and doing speaking engagements where I educate the student athletes on how to maximize their student athlete experience and then begin to navigate that through the job market process.
I've been watching that and I love what you're doing. I have connected with it with some Instagram reels that you're sharing. You give some really amazing tips out there. When you are working with these student athletes, let's start first, not with your tips, but what do the either athletic directors or the coaches who you connect with say to you that are some of the biggest problems they see, either on an individual level or the team as a whole, that they would like you to come in and talk to their group about?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a problem. But I think the biggest value add for what I do, and it's kind of ironic, if you will, because I list one of the first things I talk about is 6 transferable skills that you acquire as a student athlete that are directly transferable to corporate success and that you can bring immediately to an organization. The number one thing I mentioned is time management, um, which student athletes need to possess in abundance, and they need to master that skill. However, in mastering it, I guess it kind of really has 2 parts, right? There's maybe 3. Their social life that they have to make time for, their sport, and then their academic career. That's a full plate. I think though they fall short is they're not preparing for life after sport. That's where I can give the best value. Your career development, and think that if I'm a freshman or a sophomore, maybe even to some degree a junior, this doesn't apply to me. I'm not going to, be looking for a job anytime soon. But a lot of the things that I talk about are what you can do now, whether it's a senior in high school, even, or certainly, at a freshman in college and beyond, to start to prepare yourself for that. Whether, and a big component of that is networking, your social media presence, those type of things. So value in what I have to add to these teams and these organizations at the earlier levels, as well as your seniors who really have the need to learn career development.
There's so many things there that I would love to pick apart. When I said problem, I guess I was more thinking, when you come in, what would they love to see their athletes walk away with? And I think you really just answered that question there, that time management piece that they don't always realize as student athletes, that they have so many transferable skills that they gain from being an athlete that carries over to being a wonderful employee. I know when I'm watching some of the small clips that you share, that you're basically reminding them of that and then telling them the things that they need to be doing. I think it is so important that you just said, don't wait until your senior year to start doing these things. These are habits and routines that you need to get into as early as a senior in high school, start learning these things. And when you're a freshman, is there a tip that you would take? I think there were so many great things that you just said there, but is there a tip that you would say, this is something that when I share this with athletes, it's almost a light bulb moment for them, or something that they say, oh, I never thought of it that way before, that they could start doing right now if they're not already doing it? And let's think about those early years, like you had mentioned, senior in high school, freshman, sophomore, and even those kids who are juniors, seniors, if they haven't started yet, of course.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. And so, sorry, you asked for one, but
that's okay. We'll take a couple, but
I don't want to hide all the information. I want people to know. I think first and foremost is the conversations that you're having. When we talk about mindset and things like that, right? You hear the phrase often, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think a lot of times, particularly with athletes, they get stuck in patterns where they have conversations with people that they're comfortable with, and probably equally as important, a topic that they're comfortable with, right? So they're often asked, not just how's school's going, but how's baseball going, or how's basketball going, how's softball going, and they tend to have conversations with those people, in their personal lives, that they know that that's going to be kind of the topic of the conversation. I'm talking more so when they're talking about with adults, not with their peers. Challenge them to do is have conversations with that person, the family member, or at a gathering, or the things like that in public setting, that you may not on the surface have a common with, or that the conversation isn't going to be, centered around sport. And into that, what they do for a living, and then they'll probably naturally ask you what your major is, what your aspirations are, beyond graduation. I want to help people, right? They really, really do. And to a student athlete, like, especially if you're talking to an alumni or something like that, they want to help you, but they can't do that if they don't know how. So by having these conversations, you can begin to put yourself in a position and build out your network to have people in your corner that are going to not only want to help you, but know how they can. I always give.
I'm going to jump in.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in here because I don't want to miss this. Two things. I'm going to definitely come back to the feeling uncomfortable, making yourself feel uncomfortable every day, because I want to talk to you personally about that. And if you have any tips related to these conversations, is there something specific that you tell these college students to use in that conversation? So let's say if I was that college athlete and you said to me, you're at that family gathering or you're somewhere, not with my teammates or even my college friends, is there a line that I could use or something that I could say? Because people always ask me when I'm a college athlete, how's basketball going? How's this going? And they may ask about my major, but is there a line that you give these athletes that could be their go-to, so to speak, that could lead that conversation?
There is, and it's make it about the person. Don't make it kind of about yourself. Ask them what they do for a living, and most people do like to kind of not control the conversation, but they like to talk about themselves, right? People do. So it's going to kind of get them more comfortable because now they're talking about themselves instead of kind of pressing you. It'll allow you to find out a little bit more about them, and possibly relationship can thrive from there. Be surprised, that person who you didn't think you had anything in conversation with because it's not about sport. I always say you could be a marketing major or an accounting major, and that could be their profession, or they could be in HR at a company that hires for all of those roles and maybe in a position to help you, or at least. Adults know a lot of people too. They have bigger networks. They've been doing this longer. So if they can't personally help you, they probably know somebody who can, or they can start to steer you in that direction. So asking, to ultimately to answer your question, asking somebody what they do for a living is a great icebreaker or a way to steer that conversation.
I love that. Asking something about them. I tell people that I work with, especially parents, if they're trying to talk with their kid, or even some of the athletes or business owners that I work with related to mindset, when you're in those conversations, I give a little tool. It's called WAIT, WAIT, why am I talking? And that just makes you get quiet, which is hard to do when you're in a conversation, especially if you're trying to make yourself uncomfortable, because you want to talk, you think you should be talking. But if you just get quiet and wait, why am I talking so much? And let the other person talk. As you were saying, people love to talk about themselves. You can learn so much. And you just mentioned something that, people love to help you. I personally, if somebody says they're from Penn State, I will go all in because I am a Penn Stater. That's what I will do. As a business owner, when I see someone right now, I see on Instagram, it's senior night for a lot of the fall sports, and they're talking about what they want to do after high school, and they're talking about some of their majors and different things. I saw people saying they're going into marketing, different places. Right away, I said, I would love to maybe have you as an intern, different things, because my business is seeing growth. When you start talking about those different things, you just never know what doors could open. And if it's not me, maybe I know someone else. If they say something to me, maybe I say, hey, I know Jimmy Grugan does this thing. You need to go talk with him. It's a connector type thing. I think that's a really important piece to teach people. I love the fact that you're teaching it, because sometimes we think that people in general, not just athletes, know how to do this, and they don't. I love that you're going in and doing that in what I think is a workshop format. Tell me a little bit more about what you do when you go in with the teams.
Yes, so it is. I guess it's more of a presentation, I would say, than a speech. Like, I have a slideshow, what my talking points are, but I go off by identifying their skill sets. There's 6 skill sets, which are, your work ethic, your time management, teamwork, motivation, resiliency. Talk about those skill sets, give brief little examples of how each can be transferable and how they can kind of start to tell their story. I like to tell them is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, not having time and things like that. Your student athlete experience is your internship. And if you can convey that properly to a hiring manager, you can demonstrate that it's at least on par with a traditional internship. If not, it may supersede it. So that's kind of how I start to transition into, okay, now that we know what we're good at, How do we utilize that? How do we capitalize on it? And then I start talking about a networking piece, attending career fairs, what your resume needs to look like, and interviews. Once you land the interview, how do you prepare for it? Some common questions that you should be expected to answer, some that you should be expected to ask, and then some professional courtesies following the interview.
I love it. You share a lot of those great tips on Instagram and LinkedIn when I'm seeing your posts there. I think that part of the internship is really valuable. I think sometimes athletes, the ones I work with, overlook that. All of the skills that they gain just being an athlete. Do you find that the athletes already know that this is their internship, or is this something that they're not necessarily leaning into? I don't want to say a surprise. Is it almost a new concept when you bring that to them?
Yeah, probably more of a revelation than a surprise. Right. When I started this, and this is kind of really like when I knew I was on to something, I was speaking to a lot of former student athletes about, what I was thinking of doing, and almost to a man, verbatim, what I was told was, I really wish I had something like that when I was in school. So no, I don't think most of them know the value in what they're doing, and the transferableness of it. And then the few that do don't recognize how to fully maximize that, and how to translate it into landing interviews and navigating through that competitive job market, leaning heavily on your student athlete experience.
If you were to give someone a tip right now to start shifting that mindset, because really it's a mindset to say, this is something that makes me stand out compared to another candidate, what would you tell them to start focusing on? Is there a mindset shift that you share with these athletes?
I think it's just to be cognizant of skills you're acquiring and how they can translate into a corporate role. Sometimes athletes are told to be humble, right? And just in general, you should be humble. But throughout the interview process, it's really, that's not the time or the place for that. And that again, that makes some people uncomfortable to talk about themselves kind of like so glowingly, if you will, right? But when you're looking to separate yourself, that's what you need to do. You need to be able to show an employer or a potential employer what distinguishes you from another candidate, to learn how to kind of, stick your chest out and talk about yourself in a positive way.
Absolutely. I think this is the hardest thing for most people to do. I call it bragging about yourself. You need to learn how to brag. It's a tough one for people to lean into because people tend to be humble, and there's a time and a place for it. I joke around and say, you don't have to go into the Wawa, or if you're in a supermarket somewhere, if you don't have Wawa near you, and you say, look at me, and give yourself a parade. Look how great I am. However, in certain situations, if you're interviewing for that job, if you're trying to earn a spot on a team, if you want to be the captain, you have to show up with this energy that you deserve it. Enter the room and own it.
Yep.
It just gives off a different vibe. I was actually, and he's not even at a college level. It's ironic that you just said that. But this morning I was driving to school, 2 middle schoolers. I happen to drive a kid from around the corner who plays multiple sports, and lacrosse happens to be one of his sports. And as we were driving there today, we were talking about his dad coming to watch his game, and his dad had gotten surgery. And I said, I'm pretty sure I saw your dad driving the truck yesterday. Where was he going? I thought he had gotten surgery on his arm. He said, oh yeah, he was coming to watch my football game. I said, he's so stubborn. We would have given him a ride. We live literally around the corner from them. That's why I drive him to school. And he said, well, you know him. He wasn't going to miss a game just because he had surgery the day before. And I said, oh, he's crazy. And then it was leading to, I knew a couple of the kids on the football team who I played lacrosse against, played on a club team. And he talked about how he said, I'm a kind of a well-known, well, I don't want to say well-known, but I'm a well-known lacrosse player. And I said, you know what? You need to stop. Mm-hmm. And we're driving to the middle school, and I literally gave a mindset talk during this conversation saying, you need to stop right now and stop saying that I'm kind of well known. I'm kind of good at this. Just say, I'm a good lacrosse player. It's okay to say, I'm a good lacrosse player. And I said to him, I know that you're being humble and you're being nice about it and you don't want to brag. And then I followed it up with, and I'm not going to use his name purposely, but in the conversation, I was using his name. But I followed it up with, there is no one who is ever going to say to you, who do you think you are saying you're so good at lacrosse, if they are working hard? Because people who are working hard, they're not the haters. It's the haters. They're the ones who aren't putting in the work.
Yes. Did you ever notice that the haters, if you will, are the ones who never accomplished anything? Back to my earlier point. Successful people want others to succeed, that they want to help. So, yeah, absolutely. And especially when we're talking interviews,
Sure.
It's not even just being, it's how it's going to be perceived. Arrogance. You're not going to kick your feet up on the desk, right? Well, at least I hope you won't anyway. But
yeah, I'm telling you, if someone comes in to my interview and I'm hiring people and they do that, I'll be like, yeah, see the door, buddy.
Right.
But
a level of confidence,
right.
Because also part of it to me is, it shows that you're prepared. I tell this student, and they're prepared for everything. Like that's it's what they do, right? Preparation breeds confidence. So when you go into that situation and you're so confident, they're going to know that part of that is how prepared you are.
Absolutely. I think when you have that interview situation, I'm just thinking of myself now as the business owner. I'm looking for someone that I know can run the ship when I'm not around. I'm hiring them for certain jobs that they will be my brand and that I can trust confidently that if they're talking to someone else, that they have the confidence to go and show up like that. So they need to show up like that to me as well. Because if they come in not owning it like that, I'm not going to trust them. I'm just going to be completely honest with you there. Of course, different roles in different companies require a different level of confidence. And the good news is confidence is a learned skill, but these athletes definitely have it and they need to lean into it. I'm glad that this is something that you talk about because I think that we downplay it. Everyone, not just athletes, but everyone does that. It's something that also has to be taught. There's a time and a place to lean in. And like we were both talking about, no one who is working harder than you is ever going to knock you down for celebrating success and things like that. I'm the person who's always saying, don't downplay her greatness. If you're talking about your kid, if people say, sorry if you hate that I'm celebrating my kid on social media, keep scrolling. Who cares? Who cares if anyone hates it? They're not your people. Anyway, I could go on and on about that, but
they're not your people. I like that. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have found not just in the current journey I'm in, but as an athlete, when I was a teacher, that there are so many people out there that are willing to criticize and be negative. And they're the ones who aren't putting the work in.
Yeah, it is. And
they're the ones
like a self-love kind of thing too. Like if you have to kind of, this might sound a little corny, but like you have to learn to love yourself first, right? And the people who are like that, they're willing to accept those compliments. A lot of people get kind of awkward, kind of accepting a compliment, but you earned it. So say thank you and accept it.
Right. Another thing that's hard to do sometimes, it's just coming into my brain right now that we do have to celebrate ourselves when we are working towards big goals, because even if it seems small, those things stack up because it is not all sunshine and rainbows. And there's going to be tough days. There's going to be days when you get the no or a failure. And if you don't look at all of your success, then it's going to be much easier for you to say, well, I'm not enough, or I can't do this. Maybe I should quit and give up, no matter what it is. That is another reason why you have to be willing to say, but look at all of the things that I have accomplished. And I know myself, I'm guilty of it. The thank you thing, people sometimes will say, and I'll say, and then
Mhm.
I have to remind myself of the advice I give others because, again, you want to be humble. It's this fine line. And once you can step across and say, I don't really care what the rest of the people think, it's a whole nother level of freedom. And you lose people in that journey,
Sure.
but it's okay. They were your
They weren't
people
meant to be
for
on it then. If you lose them,
exactly. And some people are certain chapters of your life, and that's okay too. So, well, let's get back to the part about you said it's important to feel uncomfortable. I actually said this to someone who is helping me to make sure that I pour into myself. You mentioned something about self-love and taking care of yourself. Self-love, I think it's important, but sometimes when I hear that word, I'm like, do I want to say that to my clients? Because I feel like they are like, oh, I don't know if I like that. And I know what it means. But when I say that to people, sometimes they're like, oh, one more thing I have to
right.
do. It
That's
sounds corny.
why I prefaced it with it might sound corny because
I know. When you said it,
they don't know how to receive it.
exactly. So I'm always like, can we change that word? I want to invent a new term. You and I know what it means. I pour into myself, and it's really self-care, self-love, whatever we want to call it. But I told this woman who I do work with, she's basically a coach of mine, that every single day I want myself to feel uncomfortable. That's why I started working with her. I do little things. I do the ice bath type thing. I've done that at the end of my shower every day. I turn it ice cold. My son says, "You're insane. Why do you torture yourself?" But I want to feel uncomfortable every single day so that I can do uncomfortable things. I'm constantly trying to, make sure that I can step into uncomfortable roles. You had mentioned that you mentioned that to the athletes. Is there anything you do personally so that you can keep doing this work to make yourself feel uncomfortable, whether it's every day or maybe it's something that you do before you go work with people
Yeah.
that people could steal from you?
So if there's anything necessarily that I'm cognizant of that I'm doing to make myself uncomfortable, say that I start my day every day. I write out my schedule of what I have for the day, like a big positive affirmation kind of guy. So I am, writing down three things that I'm doing well or that I need to keep doing. And you had almost said it earlier, and I write every day, keep stacking, keep stacking. So that's something that I do on a daily basis. And public speaking was not something that I thought would be in my future. So just doing that is really something that I'm not, I wasn't always comfortable with. So it's always for me, how do I improve on that? How do I get better at that? And some of that is recording those videos. It's not very comfortable, and you do it, to just sit there and place your phone up and record yourself, right? Something that can be uncomfortable, but it's kind of necessary for us to kind of build the brand, or get awareness out there, or however you want to say it. So I have to remind myself of that, like, just do it. Just do it. It may not be the most comfortable. You may not love it. 99% of the other people aren't going to notice the things that you're noticing. And again, taking your own advice, I tell people all the time, give yourself the same benefit of the doubt that you would give to others. And that mindset helps you get comfortable in those situations, because you got to give yourself some grace.
Yeah, good point. Oh, that goes for everyone. We do need to give ourselves some grace. I love so many things that you said there, and I do many of those things. Do you write every single day, keep stacking?
Every day.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I too use affirmations, and I do want to say to people, if you use affirmations, and if you don't know what an affirmation is, I think a lot of people listening probably do, but they're short little statements that you could either write or say. I put them on my phone sometimes. You want to lean into them, and at first they may not feel real or that it is possible for you, but as you continue to do it, you quite literally can change the neural pathways in your brain. And then if you are paying attention, you will see opportunity. Then you have to take action, of course, but it helps you do those things that you want to do related to your goals. I use them too. I create new ones all the time. When I started my business, they were very basic. I am a speaker, I am a business owner, and felt strange at first leaving that teaching career. And then now mine are very different. And those ones, I am a business owner, I'm a speaker, I value them because they got me where I am right now. But it's just, that's who I am now. So of course I wouldn't say the same affirmations. I change them, but some of them I do say the same. So like keep stacking, of course, something like that. I would say, I don't say that exact one. There are some of them that could stay the same. And then you can change your affirmations for my people who are listening on the podcast right now. If you're developing one, it doesn't have to stay with you forever and it can evolve.
Right.
Just want to remind you.
And they probably should, because like you said early on, it's a goal as much as an affirmation, right? And you're going to hit those goals. So you're going to need new ones.
Absolutely. I actually just printed mine. I'm going to share mine with everyone. I'm going to tell you that I have one that I still say from the beginning. And I was saying, I am the missing piece to every opportunity that presents itself to me. And that was to allow myself to be open to a lot of different things within the mindset space. But the two that I just created, in case people want to steal them, one is actually related to that self-care. And I have to read it because I don't have it memorized. I literally, people can't see it because we're on audio, but I literally just printed it. So one is, I practice unwavering devotion to caring for myself in body, mind, and spirit every single day, especially when it is inconvenient. And I got to be honest, I was not doing that all the time because I'm so busy. So that inconvenient part was important. When you're making these affirmations, you have to be very specific there so that you tell your brain this is what you need to do. And the second one, I find flow in my business practices that leads to consistent income, hiring a team I trust, and loving every minute of what I do. So I think that they can evolve. They should evolve, as Jim was saying. And affirmations are great. I think that is something. And even though you said maybe it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, it actually can be uncomfortable for people when you don't believe it in the beginning. So I think that's cool.
No,
yeah, that you do that every day.
Just learn. I try to. I think I keep mine too brief. You just told me a little something.
It's okay if they're brief. Do you want to share yours? You don't have to.
I will be a paid. These were my early ones. I haven't adjusted. I'm not quite where I want to be yet, so I'm still with these.
Okay.
I will be a paid public speaker. 5-star hiring will be a success. 5-star hiring will be synonymous with hiring student athletes. They're my non-negotiables, and keep stacking. They're the ones that get written every day. And then throughout the week or the month, depending on, what I'm working on, like if I have certain jobs to fill, I'll write down that these jobs will get filled. Or if there's a total fee that comes with those, I'll remind myself of what that fee is. Because let's be honest, we got to keep the lights on, right? And when it's when it's in front of you, I think it's a pretty powerful reminder of what your why is.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's important to tell people that in the beginning. I'm honest with people. When I was saying mine, I am a business owner, I am a speaker, I'm a workshop facilitator. I wasn't those things. So it felt strange for me to say it. But I can tell people honestly now that I am those things. And affirmations were a big part of changing my brain. And it's an easy way for people to start that mindset shift. And it can really be anything. If, they're starting that networking thing and they feel nervous about it, they could be simply saying things like, I am going to start networking with 5 people every week. So they could just start saying things. And when you're saying those things out loud to yourself and keeping them positive, you don't want to put negatives in there because then your brain will focus on what you don't have. But when you keep saying those things to yourself, your brain wants to prove you right. It'll start looking for things. So it's, even if it feels weird at first.
It will feel weird at first. But what I will say to that, though, when you, and some of them are more kind of concrete than others, but when you can definitively check one of those off, it's incredibly rewarding because you were writing every day for so long, and now it came to fruition, and you could see that in some cases, touch it. It's
Sure.
incredibly gratifying.
It is. I will agree with that one. Yeah, I mean, and you can go in any direction with that. It can be really any area of your life. So.
Hey there, before we dive back into the pod party, how about we sneak out for a quick break? Feeling the weight of the daily grind? Our workshops and staff development programs are your backstage pass to success. We're here to arm you and your leadership squad with the tools to ace those goals, tame stress, and foster a winning culture. Forget the boring seminars. Our workshops are all about real connections and real results. Whether it's virtual or in person, we're here to elevate your success. After the show, visit shop.danunow.com to learn more and set up a free call to chat. We tailor our programs to fit your needs and goals. Let's get back to the show. Grab your virtual goodie bags so you can fill them up with all of the mindset magic.
I saw a couple videos of some athletes saying, after being in this workshop or presentation with James, this is what I gained from it. What do you think is the hardest thing that athletes have dealt with, and they had that transformation moment when they were either with you or they came to you later and said, oh, this is what happened because I was in your presentation or I took your advice?
I think what the hardest part is kind of about connecting, if you will. It is, again, we talked about kind of that distinction between humble and confident and cocky. It is to get them to realize that they are acquiring these skills and that they are directly transferable. And when you get the success stories, I've had a couple of students over this summer who reached out to me. Who reached out to me directly, who I had not spoken to in a group setting. And they basically got a one-on-one of what that thing was. I took the time for, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, and just kind of explained everything, the whole thing. These are your skills. This is how you tell your story. This is how you navigate the job market. This is how you prepare for the interview. They were able to take that information and an interview and get a job offer. And when they called it to thank you with that, you were able to kind of put them in path. Again, it's incredibly rewarding for me, but for them as well. It is they get in most cases it's their first job, their first real job out of school. Able to get themselves by telling their story. That's incredibly a moment for them as well.
That's amazing. I love hearing that because you're just making a difference in the world. And when you can do that for someone else and then they land where they're supposed to be, it's just a ripple effect. So that's really cool. So thank you for doing that for that student. I don't even know if they know yet how valuable that is, but not only are you doing it really for that student athlete, but that company that gets them and all of the other people that get to experience their work. Thank you for doing that. So really cool.
You're welcome.
We ask all of our guests at the end of my show here, if you had the opportunity to swap lives with anyone, dead or alive, for just 1 week, because we don't want to lose you. We think you're pretty awesome. Who would you swap lives with and why?
That's all right. So swap. All right. So when you talk like time travel, I'm a big I knew this was coming because I just saw the episode with your son. I'm a big Back to the Future guy. So we can't mess up the space-time continuum and all those things. So if this were, just completely a hypothetical, I would think it would be successful entrepreneur. What we talked about, that it's not who I want to be. It's who I am. Right. And there's a few, like I've read Shoe Dog, Phil Knight's book, and just to see how he put himself in those positions, you see Phil Knight and Dave Portnoy's another one from Barstool Sports. You see these guys like Phil Knight and I had to do it through his book. Dave Portnoy, I watched him go from a one-man blog to, to sell his company for hundreds of millions of dollars. It's inspiring to see how, everybody started somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And at one point they were where I am now, and now they're where I aspire to be. So to trade places with somebody like that, to really see what the mentality needs to look like to get to that point, and I just think it would be something so valuable to be able to see, because you think you're working hard, but you're probably not doing enough. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it would be an epic week, and I definitely think you would have a week of, wow, look at all of this stuff. I do need to say, though, I think you probably are working very hard, but you're not giving yourself enough credit, probably, as we were saying earlier. But I do think that would be an epic week if you could have that swap. That's a really cool answer, and I've never had that one before. So I think that so many people could teach us things that we would be like, wow, I didn't even think to do it that way as an entrepreneur. So that would be a cool thing too, just to have someone else's brain for that week. And you could get some like little thing that could just be a game changer. Thank you again for coming on the show. And I want you to drop your links, Instagram, your website, LinkedIn. Of course, we will have that in the show notes for everyone who's listening. But if you want to share those, where are the best places if people want to connect with you to steal your genius and, of course, work with you?
Yeah. So on LinkedIn, professional standpoint, that's where I live. I'm on there at both James Grugan and 5-Star Hiring. And then the other socials, I keep it simple. They're all at 5-Star Hiring. And you're going to find that on Instagram, Twitter /X, and YouTube. Oh, and also recently TikTok as well. All those are just at 5-Star Hiring. LinkedIn is both James Grugan and at 5-Star Hiring.
Perfect. And everyone who's listening right now, I will put those links in there so you don't have to figure out where to go. You literally can click on them so you can connect directly with Grugan and get all of this, connect with him. If you haven't had him come talk with your team yet or work with him directly, you are at a disadvantage. I've been paying attention to this and I'm seeing what is happening, and you need to get on it. I do need to tell you that he had said, I didn't think speaking was in, the cards for me, or maybe something I was going to do. And I said to him, maybe, I don't even know how long ago it was, a couple months, maybe last spring. I said, you need to be out doing this. Like, people need more of this from you, because he really has some amazing things to share. And I know personally that anytime a team mentions things to me, I say, this is something that you need to be doing with your athletes, because it is invaluable to have these skills. And as we had mentioned, it needs to be taught. The athletes don't know how valuable this is, and they need to learn it. A lot of times athletes, we don't say that we don't know something because we don't want to express that weakness, but you need to learn how to lean in. He's the guy for doing this. Thank you again for hanging out with me today. And I am looking forward to seeing continued success. I am going to share with everyone that this morning, I actually heard some really sad news about someone that, unfortunately, I didn't know that this person had passed away. And one of his friends, I just know them through the podcasting world, but one of his friends had put something on LinkedIn saying that this podcaster who I had been a guest on his show, that he had passed and he had been ill with cancer, actually. And the one thing he said was he would want everyone to do what they love. And you said a couple times today, in my affirmations, and I just love to hear that I'm able to help this person. You really speak about it in a way that you love what you're doing. I'm excited for you to see this continue to grow, and I want you to steal the advice. I promised, I wrote a message sending you, of course, that I was sorry to hear about this, and really sad that the algorithm, I guess, didn't show me. They live in the UK, but I'm going to share it again, really just with you. I said I would take the challenge to continue to do what I love, but I'm challenging you as well to keep going, because as we were saying, those affirmations, they will come to be what they are, as they already are for you, but keep doing what you love, because you are much needed. Thank you again for being on The Champion Within.
Yeah, you started with a humbling intro, and you ended with one. So really, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for coming to The Champion Within today and sharing space with us. And we will see you on the next one.
Thanks for hanging out with me today. Whether you are going to coach, teach, cheer from the stands, or hit the field yourself, remember, mindset is everything. Don't forget to follow the show because we all need a little extra motivation, humor, and some sanity in our busy lives. Go unleash that champion within you, one step at a time. I'm rooting for you always.